Alright, hello everyone, and thank you for tuning in once again to the Black Box Podcast, BBOR, Black Box Online Radio. Today we're going to do a little question and answer session on the 1961 disappearance of Joan Risch from Lincoln, Massachusetts. In October, we will be approaching the anniversary of Joan's disappearance, and I thought about doing some kind of something for this channel around the time of the anniversary. However, I thought before that comes, I was, going through some articles today about the case, and I thought, why not first do a true crime Q&A on this before we get into any of the new theories and new developments and new information across the board. First, let's do a true crime Q&A where I just read off some of your comments that you've left on the videos, and we can have a little bit of a discussion. First, I would like to give a very big shout out to Carla Barbosa. Carla has put in an enormous amount of research into this case, and she has really gone the extra mile and left numerous comments on all my uploads on the case of Joan Risch. And just, if I could interview any single person for an upload on BBOR, I would interview Carla Barbosa. So thank you, Carla, for all your work and your comments. The first one comes to us from Carla, and what a little background on before we read off the comment is, before Joan disappeared, she was seen in the afternoon by one of the neighbors with outstretched arms, and she was clutching something red in her hands. Now, Carla's question is about that. Carla writes, maybe you can give me your opinion about something. How could a neighbor see Joan on her driveway from her kitchen window? Her house is 100 yards from the Risch's driveway. Also, both are obscured by trees, yet she could see the type of coat she was wearing and something red. It's not possible. Carla brings up a very good point, and that was something that I had dealt with myself, when it was just like, not only does that sound like an enormous amount of a stretch, but very odd specific things to recall. It's like all these extra pieces of details and information. I thought one possibility that the red thing she could have been clutching would have been the beer bottles. They would have been like, she would have, because Joan consumed some beer, or at very least Joan had some empty beer bottles that were in the house that her husband didn't know about. I thought maybe at one point that was the beer bottles. What a lot of people think is that Joan was already bleeding at that time, and there was just blood on her hands. I don't think anyone has brought up my little beer bottle theory, but Carla brings up the absolute biggest point. How could the neighbor see her from the kitchen window from that far away, and recalling all these weird and odd specific details? It's like, hey, when did you last see Jimmy? Oh yeah, Jimmy was out by his car, he was walking, his arms were outstretched, and he was clutching something red. It didn't sound like a natural thing to say. So, I don't know, I think that's a giant red flag. And when we do a true crime Q&A on Maura Murray, we'll find out that these odd and bizarre responses are the things that I think there might be a certain element of truth that someone is hiding. At the very least, that is just, something that we've been discussing. But in Carla's research, she's also stated, though, that the blood was examined by a laboratory at Harvard. Because, they're both in Massachusetts. Joan lived in Massachusetts. Harvard is in Cambridge, not so far away. The blood was examined at Harvard at a laboratory, and it was determined to have come from a hemorrhage. Quite interesting. I don't know why that isn't more widely publicized, but that is a comment that Carla left also on that first upload. Now, moving on to another one here. We have one coming to us from Amanda Dovel, D-O-V-E-L, hope I said that correctly. And Amanda is asking something about, or she's making a comment rather, on using beer in a home-conducted abortion. Because some of the biggest things that people are dealing with when it comes to Joan Risch is the abortion theory. And, even before I ever went on any of the articles or videos that talked about the abortion theory, I had the same feeling. I was discussing this case with somebody, my first, day into it, and we were wondering, like, is this a possible miscarriage or an abortion? This just has that, erupting aura of, something associated with that. And, like, I did some looking into this back, and I mentioned this in my original uploads about how beer is used in some homemade abortions. Like, if you Google abortion, do it yourself and stuff like that, you would find pages and pages of this stuff where people are like, "Hi, I'm pregnant and I need an abortion. What do? I don't want anyone to find out." And it's like, people would just give their homemade abortion remedies. And I was like, huh. You're just like kind of blank. You don't really know what to feel. And one of them, though, was beer with salt, specifically a dark beer, like Guinness, but a beer with 3 tablespoons of salt. One of them was beer with aspirin. One of them was just boiled beer. That was the old Caribbean remedy. And one of them had this giant list of things that you add into it. Like, you boil the beer, but then you add in rosemary, and I think cloves and some other stuff. There is countless info on this stuff. It's just crazy, like about how much people just share on the internet. But with that being said, Amanda Dovell says, "I believe the salt and beer mixture is actually introduced into the uterus to cause an abortion, not consumed. She could have easily planned this abortion during the time her husband was away." Amanda, I really would thank Amanda for that. I mean, I don't know anything about this firsthand. I just read some forums and discussion articles and, people commenting on the internet. Okay, Amanda has something there that's very likely true. When you hear things like beer and aspirin, that really sounds like something that somebody would consume orally, like just, ingest it. But I'll take Amanda's word for that. And we don't even necessarily know that those beer bottles are associated with an abortion. But what we can say is beer is used in a wide range of home abortions. And it actually sounds a little bit more medical than just drinking boiled beer like what I thought it was. So, I mean, I'm not a medical doctor, and I thank Amanda for the comment. At least it adds, a little bit more understanding to the picture. Now, going on to another one regarding the bloody sighting of Joan Risch, that there were 2 possible sightings of Joan that are inconclusive. We don't know 100% that it was Joan, but at least 2 people have reported sightings of seeing a woman walking down the median of a highway. I believe it is the median, not the sidewalk, not the shoulder, but like the divider between 2 lanes, and they saw a woman walking down there, and they noticed some blood on her. And this one comes to us from Looking Glass Mimsy. Looking Glass Mimsy says, "Is it possible that Joan had some kind of reaction to something that happened at the dentist? A drug reaction or a problem with the filling?" That's like one of the single first things that anyone has ever brought up. Looking Glass Mimsy is the first one to ever raise that to my attention. Was Joan's disorientation caused by an adverse reaction to something at the dentist? And is that what caused her to just grab her light coat and wander off? I mean, it's like, I don't know 100%, but Looking Glass Mimsy is the first one to raise that to my attention. I would say that it's possible, but one of the things, though, is Looking Glass Mimsy furthers in another comment, a different one, by saying, "The blood could have come from her mouth. My thought was that she had a reaction to something at the dental appointment that she went to earlier that day, and not sure what she had done at the dentist. She had her kid with her, so it must have been simple routine work. I've heard stories of an infection in your teeth or mouth leading to bizarre incidences as well." Well, Carla has argued that the blood came from a hemorrhage. However, I think if the blood did come from Joan's mouth, I mean, that would answer a lot of things that, just something happened post-dental work that would cause the blood to come out. And that would also explain why it would explain looking for emergency numbers, but how would this theory explain the telephone being in the trash can? Remember, there was a telephone found in the wastebasket with the cradle resting on the side. I think the Looking Glass Mimsy, though, has raised a very, very interesting point about how maybe somewhat possible that the drugs they give you at the dentist office could have contributed to disorientation. It's possible, but I think maybe it is a big stretch, though, to think that the blood came from Joan's mouth as opposed to something else, as opposed to a different method. But I'm always open to new things, because we have to admit, though, this is an unsolved mystery. We don't have all the answers yet, so I'm always open to new ideas and to new possibilities. And, just like always trying to keep an open mind. And you keep an open mind because sometimes you just have these very strong theories that you really, really believe. And then when you learn the truth, when the case actually gets solved, you're like, well, your theory was only about halfway correct. So we always keep an open mind. And our next comment comes to us from John Brown. And John Brown is making a comment about my upload where I said, why would there be an abortion going on in Joan's kitchen? They had a garage. They had a basement. Why on earth would you do it in the kitchen where you could easily be interrupted and windows, not to mention, people can see into the house. Furthermore, it's like, I was so passionate about that. I just thought it was ridiculous to perform the abortion in the kitchen. But John Brown writes, kitchen because to serve as an operating table. And, yes, John's right. I mean, Howard Stern once said something like, sometimes, you're just like so passionate. You can even be angry about something, and it just drives you crazy. And then you listen back to your own recording like 3 months later, and you're like, what was I going on about? Of course, John Brown totally has it. Yeah, the kitchen has a table to serve as an operating table. Or what about this? Water. They have the faucet right there, the sink. Water. I mean, it's like, I don't even know what I was going on about with that. I mean, I theorize on this channel, but sometimes, we change our perspectives, and we don't have to drive these theories into the grave. It's like, if we learn new things that change our perspective, we change our perspective, and if we learn things that completely challenge us, it's okay to say that now you believe something differently. All right, and we actually have another comment from Looking Glass Mimsy. And Looking Glass Mimsy was talking about how Joan disappeared from the house. And she took her light coat with her, not the heavy coat. She wore the heavy coat to the dentist that morning. But her light coat was missing from the upstairs closet, and the heavy coat remained in the house. And Looking Glass Mimsy says that Joan took the light coat because she was cold from loss of blood, so she grabbed her coat. She's starting to lose blood and her body feels cold, so she grabbed the light coat. I mean, that's a possibility, but I believe Carla Barbosa is challenging that by saying she either already had the coat on her or she put it on her to cover blood, that she put on the coat to cover blood. Well, I'm not 100% certain, but I just don't really know about that. But what I would say is I think it's very strange, though, that she did wear the light coat, and maybe Mimsy has a point that she just felt cold and she grabbed the first coat she could think of. But anyway, that's all from me for now. Thank you to everybody who has commented, to Carla, Mimsy, Amanda, and John. Thank you so much for your comments. I really appreciate it. And I just want to say, again, thank you to anyone who listened to my uploads on the disappearance of Joan Risch. And we will do some more uploads on this in October for the anniversary. And hopefully this case will be solved one day. Until next time.